Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Autodromo Nazionale Monza in Italy for the final rounds of the 2019 Euroformula Open Championship. Scott Woodward here to guide you through all the action here for this morning's first of two qualifying sessions this weekend. The track temperature is 11 degrees, as is the air temperature. Quite humid out there, 91% degrees, but luckily there is no threat of rain on this beautiful autumnal misty morning here in northern Italy, just outside Milan. Hopefully we'll have Elliot Wood and potentially also Callan O'Keefe on the microphone when they make it to the commentary box very shortly. But this is of course the final rounds of what's been a very exciting year in the Euroformula Open Championship. We've been all across Europe this season, to France, to Germany, to Austria, to Belgium, and of course to as well the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit and the streets of Po as well. We finish off here in Italy, and it was last time out in Barcelona as well, where we had some very mixed weather conditions. Rain on Saturday, dry conditions on Sunday, and all in the mix for many of the drivers out there. And there's Jack Doohan, one of our Australian runners this weekend. Nice to see a slightly increased entry for this weekend's season finale. We've got a few new drivers on the grid this weekend, the most notable of which is this year's Pro Mazda champion from America, being Kyle Kirkwood in car number 1. Now, he's had quite a lot of success over in America, but it's his first time, I believe, competing in Europe in these cars. As we see Jack Doohan being followed by his fellow Antipodean Caelan Williams as they make their way through the Ascari chicane. Of course, for those who need a bit of catching up, the title has already been settled in terms of the main championship. That, of course, going to Marino Sarto last time out at Barcelona. We do still have the rookie title to decide, and that will be quite a fierce contest as the weekend goes on. One out here with this 25-minute qualifying session, just looking to get their own little piece of real estate on the track, to try and get the best line possible. But of course, slipstream here is going to be an absolute premium, because everyone will be looking for the toe down the pit straight. Hopefully we don't get too many shenanigans that we had, of course, in the Formula 1 qualifying, but I'm sure that GT Sport will clamp down on those pretty quickly. So, cars make their way onto their first flying laps of the weekend, headed up by Jack Doohan as they make their way into the Rettifilio chicane. Fastest man in practice yesterday was this man coming onto screen, number 31, Billy Munger. He set the fastest time by almost 0.2 of a second yesterday. There is Kyle Kirkwood, car number 1. Kyle, it's not his first time racing in Europe, because he was part of the Team USA scholarship, which saw him come across with another quite esteemed graduate from the same year, Oliver Askew, who was this year's Indy Lights champion. And both of them raced Formula Fords at the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch and the Walter Hayes Trophy at Silverstone. But since then, they've had very similar trajectories up the ladder in terms of heading up the road to Indy ladder in many cases, and Kyle Kirkwood's record has seen him won in quite a few different championships up that ladder. And he has won, of course, things such as the USF 2000 championship, and then, of course, this year's Pro Mazda championship as well. I'm sure, without a doubt, he'll move into Indy Lights next year, if not potentially seek a career in Europe. But, of course, still getting to grips with the Dallara F317 chassis, and will be trying his best to improve on his times from yesterday. He was 14th fastest yesterday in practice. He was only 1.1 seconds off the fastest time. That just shows how tight the order is, even in free practice. They head through. So the car's now on the back straight towards Parabolica to look at the first few times coming in for this qualifying session. There's Linus Lundqvist, looking to score some strong results. He's been on the podium a few times this season and looking to try and improve. First few flying laps in the books, and the first flying lap at the moment, fastest, goes to Lucas Dunner with a 1:48.734, and the fastest middle sector. Fastest man in the speed trap so far is Nicholas Crutten. He's also just set the fastest first sector at the moment on his second flying lap, if you like. So he will now move on to another flying lap as well. As for Marino Sarto, he hasn't ventured out yet and set the time as far as I can see. Neither is Liam Lawson or Cameron Das or Yuki Tsunoda. So, cars heading their way through. Lucas Dunner has the first part of the session. So, session continues on. There is the car that's currently provisionally fastest at the moment in the first couple of laps in, but Nicholas Cruden and co are going much faster. Lucas Dunner effectively second in the championship, although if Liam Lawson can outscore him this weekend, there is a good chance maybe that he could sneak up to second place in the points if fortunes go his way. Linus Lundqvist is a little further back in fourth position, but he's battling away with Yuki Tsunoda over fourth in the title standings. There's also a good battle going on between Nikolai Kiergaard, well, it was with Nikolai Kiergaard and Julian Hanses, but now it's between Kiergaard and Billy Mungus. There could be a bit of inter-team rivalry going on at Carlin. So as they make their way to the laps, next few laps are coming. Nicholas Cruden has now gone to the quickest time this time so far, 1 minute 45.354, only just under a tenth quicker than Ida Cohen, the very impressive Israeli driver that debuted last time out at Barcelona. Jack Doohan goes fastest with a bit of a help of a tow from Billy Munger. Down the pit straight, he's gone to 1:44.100. Just for reference, the fastest time that we had yesterday in the free practice times, if I bring them back up on my screen, fastest time that we had was 1:42.481. So they've got a little bit more time to find, about 2 seconds or so. It's doing sort of 44.100 with fastest sectors all across the board. So he's now looking to try and improve his times as much as possible, doing them fastest by almost half a second for Linus Lundqvist in second place. But the Munger's gone to third, so he's got some time to make up after he was fastest across yesterday's two practice sessions. Nicholas Cruden fourth, he's been standing in for Julian Hanses ever since Silverstone. Ida Cohen in only his second Euroformula weekend, currently fifth quickest, and sixth quickest for Carl Kirkwood. Impressive on his first weekend in one of these cars. But of course he's been running at this sort of level over in America, as we mentioned in Pro Mazda over the last couple of years, and looking very strong in many cases. Caelan Williams is seventh quickest for Fortec Motorsport, eighth quickest for Tepin Hattori, who took his first Euroformula Open victory last time out at Barcelona. Christian Hahn ninth, and Nikolai Kiergaard rounding out the top 10. Elliot's playing join me in the commentary box once again. We've got some interesting new additions to the weekend to talk about Carl Kirkwood, and he's someone who, if you look at his record coming through the American ranks, pretty much, I think ever since he pretty much left doing the Team USA scholarship, has pretty much been on an upward trajectory alongside Oliver Askew, who joined him in the same year, and those two have just been going up and up the ranks, and really just been setting the American junior Formula alight.
Yeah, they've won basically everything you can in America in junior single-seaters at the lower levels. Next year he'll likely go into the category immediately below IndyCar, but he could remain in Europe. This is only his first taste of what racing over here is like, and he was, I wouldn't say shocked at Monza, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience to have a very different circuit to the likes they race on in America.
I'd imagine, obviously, he'd get a bit more experience, as that was a bit of a wiggle under brakes there for one of the RP Motorsports cars by the looks of it. And that is Tepin Hattori finding the limits of the Ascari chicane. Thankfully, he bounds his way back onto the circuit in front of one of his rather bemused teammates. I think that was Christian Hahn, I think. Nicholas Dunner, though, in the pit lane, currently, who was at the moment fastest. He was quickest, if I'm correct, in yesterday's second practice session. Second practice session. Billy Munger was quickest in the first one, but it was the time in the first one that got him the overall fastest time. So they're looking strong so far. Linus Lundqvist, though, at the moment sitting third fastest behind Nikolai Kiergaard and Jack Doohan. And so, obviously, you were here watching the action yesterday in free practice. What do you think were the main talking points? What did you take away from yesterday's free practice in terms of who's looking quick and who possibly has some work to do?
It was really difficult to measure who was the quickest and which team was quickest in particular, because in both of free practice sessions, our fastest time was set with a tow. I believe Lucas Dunner kind of got a double tow, so 2 cars in front. I think Billy Munger had 5 cars in front, so an insane tow. And around the whole lap, I think that equates to just over a second. Actually, on this main straight, it's only about 4 or 5 tenths, but over the lap, it's worth quite a lot. So it was very difficult to see which teams were fast without a tow, and it's quite difficult to then kind of time it to get that tow perfect. Motorpark, as we've seen before, kind of worked together, and a lot of their drivers ran in tandem, which is a strategy I believe they're going to be pulling off today.
Well, just wait and see how that works out. Looking at the sectors, what's interesting, Carl Kirkwood, actually, we say it's his first time running one of these cars in Europe. He's learning quickly that he was 6th quickest, now goes down to 7th, because now I think Tepin Hattori's just jumped up to P2, as Billy Munger now goes fastest. I don't know, we didn't see exactly how many cars he had in front of him to get a tow, if any, but 1:43.145 is pretty impressive for the time he's set so far. So it's currently an all-Carl in front row at the moment for qualifying, but we've still got just under 10 minutes for, which only had just 10 minutes or so into the session. Jack Doohan third fastest from Nikolai Kiergaard in fourth, and Linus Lundqvist rounding out the top 5. There's your provisional fastest man in the session. Billy Munger. And we talk about Carl Kirkwood, 7th quickest in this qualifying session at the moment, and at the time he currently had the fastest first sector. Not anymore, he doesn't, because Tepe Nattori's just taken it on what possibly could put him on a lap that could provisionally, if he can get it right, the rest of it, on pole position for race 1 later on.
Kirkwood was rapid in the first sector in free practice yesterday. That was the one kind of standout area for him. But it was in the middle sector of the lap where some of the other cars were looking far quicker, and where you've got I wouldn't say the more complex corners, given that these are all quite simple corners here, but it was definitely where the time was being lost rather than the time being made by the other teams.
So everyone's just playing a bit of strategic game here in terms of seeing exactly who's quick where and trying to keep tabs of it as much as possible. Either way, the toe is very crucial, and thankfully everyone's just taking a toe as and when it comes, rather than we saw in the Formula 1 qualifying session when everyone was gathering up to try and find the best possible person and not planning to be first. And it's a bit more of a traditional qualifying session this time, so it's not a case where everyone's kind of fighting not to be the leading car. You just have to get out there and set the fastest time possible. Yeah,
and this is the first time for a while that Euroformula has raced on a track without those FIA spec curbs on corner exits that are huge, and I think they led to retirements at Barcelona and Silverstone, not only in these races but in some of the other races on the GT Sport package. So it's quite refreshing to see them without those curbs this weekend, and how much the drivers can go without abusing the track limits.
Yeah, I think one person that fell foul of those curbs, I think, as we figured out, which effectively almost settled the title in many cases, was in many cases it was
Lucas Danner.
Lucas Danner, that was it. I was trying to find my name. Lucas Danner, because in the start of the first race he clipped that curb pretty heavy in the first few corners, and that pretty much set him out of the race there and then. So you're absolutely right with the curbs in many cases. These guys can take it a little bit more liberal to a certain extent with the curve, but obviously with the fact that we've seen already time has been deleted in yesterday's free practice sessions, they're still policing it pretty heavily.
Yeah, and we're seeing the motorpark drivers and one of the DriveX school cars, I think it was Rory Andrade, they're going very slowly through the first sector. Yesterday, the two Rebel Juniors, Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, were going extremely slowly, and they almost crashed at the pit entrance at the end of the second session, where one of them went to overtake the other, but obviously one of them was going into the pits at the same time. So there's almost more dangers associated with the deliberately going slow here than trying to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we are seeing the case of no one wants to really be leading the group, because effectively that means that whoever leads the group doesn't get the benefit of a tow and everyone else does. The only trouble is when you've got cars that are steaming up behind them on fast laps, when you've got cars going 2 by 2 at the run down towards the Lesmos, doesn't really help matters. But even so, I think we've got, as we say, that got like Cameron Dass is one of the cars. He's there gone to the front and says, right, come on then, let's get this underway. Rory Andrade has also gone past as well, and also one of the Red Bull Junior cars in the mix too. But Cameron Dass isn't waiting around. He simply, look, come with me or just do your own thing. But he wants to go off and try and improve his lap time as best he can. And that's Marino Sato in there as well. So Marino Sato was in that group as Rory Andrade slips past him, the Angolan for DriveX. And he's not the only DriveX school car out there, because also he's got a driver he's very familiar with, someone who's raced with him Formula 4 over the last couple of years, Philippe Caminiar. You have to help
Philippe Caminiars, yeah.
That's Philippe Caminiars. I was going to butcher the surname, so Philippe, you're listening. If you listen back to this, I apologise. But he's someone who those two know each other. Of course, they've driven for the same team together and driven, obviously, in the same championship in Spanish Formula 4.
And yes, and Philippe Caminiars has been doing a testing program with DriveX School for much of this year. So he spent a lot of time in the Euroformula car with the team, getting to know how it operates. So it's not surprising that he is on the pace very quickly this weekend. I believe DriveX School was also testing another driver, high-profile name, can't remember who, but obviously Fernando Alonso has a links to this team, so we may be seeing one of his protégés in this car again next season or over the winter.
Yeah, I did see the FA Racing awnings in the pit lane, so obviously they seem to be having some kind of an influence on the DriveX School team, which is good to see. Good to see that someone Fernando Alonso's calibre is getting involved in this championship in many cases. 10 minutes to go in the session, and still Billy Munger fastest, 1:43 now, 0.145, so he's still got roughly around sort of 7 tenths to make up on his best time, but of course, as we suspect, that was with the aid of a tow from several cars. Tepe Nattori's second fastest, it's Jack Doohan third, Nikolai Kiergaard fourth quickest, and Niles Lundqvist in fifth place. Looks like Cameron Dass also starting to try and decide when he wants to go, and possibly just trying to find a bit of his own bit of real estate on track. Both Rory Andrade quite fancies a tow from the young American, so does the car behind him as well, one of the motor park cars as well. So all sorts going on with these guys out there. All teams are reminding, please respect Chapter 4 ISC, so they're being told to respect something in many cases.
Yeah, I imagine that is to do with either weaving when using to warm up the tyres, or going excessively slowly when there isn't a yellow flag period, which is kind of the generic message drivers get given at Monza during qualifying sessions, sadly.
Yeah. It's good that we've got RP Motorsport this weekend. Of course, they're running Kirkwood. There's also another driver they're running, which is Lorenzo Ferrari, the young Italian as well. What can you tell us about Lorenzo in many cases? Obviously, I'm guessing he's quite a talented young sort of Italian coming up through the ranks at the moment.
Yeah, he's been working with one of the smaller teams in Italian Formula 4 over the last year. Hasn't had a particularly strong season until the last few weeks, where he was racing at the front with, like the Formula 1 juniors, and he took his first podium, and I think he followed it up with a 4th place as well. You can read more about the Formula 4 Championships on formulascout.com. I'm trying to recall from memory here. And then I believe he has done 1 or 2 tests in this car prior to this weekend. There's another wobble there for Rui Andrade. And then he signed out of RP Motorsport for this weekend only. But I believe he is looking at Formula 3 full-time next year, although obviously this wouldn't be Formula 3, but Euroformula. And I think he is a very talented young driver. Didn't have the best pre-practice sessions yesterday. His track time was limited, to say the least, but it's a learning curve in these cars. They're very, very different to the Formula 4 cars they use.
Speaking of the cars, of course, we were talking yesterday, there was a special press conference when we had the main man behind Dallara, and Giancarlo Dallara was down here at Barcelona. He is here this weekend. They were talking about the brand new car, the Dallara F320 that's been tested, and of course, I know also you were there sort of listening to some of the feedback from some of the teams and what they were talking about the car. So a lot of people seem to be quite excited about this new car coming in for next year with more downforce. It's now got, I believe it's also got is it going to have the halo as well?
Yeah, it's a halo shod, but lighter than the current car, which is an incredible job. So Dallara has designed, I'm not sure they designed the Haas Formula 1 car, but they've got experience in Formula 1 in recent years, and they also designed the Super Formula car, which is used in Japan. And to make that car, they had to use very new technologies, essentially, kind of stuff that you can't really talk about. And then they fed that right into the new Euroformula car. So it's very, very high-tech stuff they put in junior single-seaters. And thankfully, for a lot of these teams, they can kind of get it as a body kit for the current car and upgrade it, which makes it more cost-efficient for everyone involved.
I have to admit, I didn't know that. That's quite impressive, the fact you can take the current spec Dallara F317 car, basically put a 2020 upgrade package on it, and it saves you having to buy a completely new chassis unless something happens to it. But that's the danger of, just quickly going back to the on-track action, that's the danger of cars going very slowly there, because Marino Sato, our new champion, had to weave between 2 cars that were going incredibly slowly on the run down towards Parabolica, and there's another word for it, that is pretty dangerous running when drivers are trying to get themselves sighted to get out of Parabolica. And that's what I was describing earlier on. When you've got drivers heading down towards a fast corner at speed flat out, when you've got cars in front of you that are on either side of the track in the mix as well, it's not great. And I think as a result of that, Race Control have been very quick on that, because it's stop and go penalties for cars 99 and 18.
Rui Andrade and Niklas Krutten, who were the 2 who went through turn 1, didn't even make the turn. They just drove straight through it at a very slow pace. Cars are up in pace now. Marino Sato is at the front of the train. He has secured the title, but obviously his teammates have more to fight for, with the rookie title still up for grabs. So I imagine he's kind of sacrificing his own lap here by being at the front of the train to help tow his teammates.
Quite possibly. I think that's a good plan, because effectively, as you say, he's done the hard bit in winning the championship. Now he wants to try at least to help his teammates secure the rookie title as much as possible. So he's got just over 5.5 minutes to help them get a little further up the grid. Sato, for the record, hasn't really set a proper time so far this session, 1:53.314. So again, that time's not really representative of his true pace, but he's currently sat in 16th. But I'm sure with this effort, at least, he'll be able to pop up somewhere near the top 10. And he is giving, looks like Yuki Tsunoda behind him with a tow as well, his fellow Japanese young hotshot, as he comes up through Ascari onto the back straight. And we've got, that's the 88 car, that's the Lorenzo Ferrari car as well, the 88 car. Sorry, that's Philippe Caminiard.
A black flag has been waved, and that is not a good sign. And that is very, very slow. You can see there's, 15, 16 cars behind him now? In fact, he might have does he have a puncture? Looking at his wheels.
Either that, putting the car right on the apex of Parabolica, and that really did frighten my life about Caleb Williams having to back out of a potential move there. And that could have been something that doesn't even bear thinking about, I suppose, does it?
Yeah, and Marino Sato has got into the top 10. He's now in 9th place with Liam Lawson in 10th. Sato was actually slowest in free practice 1 on Friday morning, but in the afternoon session, I think even without a toe, he was one of the quickest. And it looks like Billy Munger's also just improved at the top as well, 142.9. I imagine he may have been further towards the back of that train of cars there to take first position. And he took pole at Barcelona last time out, set off free practice pace alone, so this would be his first proper pole, per se, in Euroformula Open.
Yeah, because the qualifying session for the first part, of course, as we remember, was rained off due to the torrential rain we had in the morning of Saturday. So they had to set the time, as you say, rightly by free practice session times combined. So Billy Munger did earn the pole that way, but of course, you're absolutely right. In many cases, if he does steal this one, it will be his first pole in an actual qualifying session rather than just getting it based on the times he set the day before. So Marino Sato, looking at his times, he's doing a personal best in Sector 1. Cameron Dass at the moment, who's 17th quickest, has done the fastest first sector of anyone with a 34.114. I have to say, one driver I'm quite impressed with so far, and only his second weekend of the championship, Ida Cohen, 3rd quickest at the moment, and currently making it a Carlin 1-2-3. So at the moment, so far, once again, Carlin seems to do this quite well in terms of not only just getting their cars pretty quick, but also their drivers seem to work together quite well and giving themselves toes and helping them out in terms of getting them as far up the grid. I think we had at one point the first 4 cars, or Carlin cars at one point in Barcelona, if I'm correct. So
they finished 1, 2, 3, 4 in race 2, which was their first result, or the first time they've achieved that result since British F3 Donington Park, I'm going to say, 2012, with the likes of Carlos Sainz Jr. and Jack Harvey, I think. That is stretching back the years. A lot of drivers completing laps now. We're seeing several improvements, I believe. And Yuki Tsunoda's gone up second. Linus Lundqvist now on provisional pole, past Billy Munger by over half a second. That is a massive lap, and he must have been quite near the front of that train. Liam Lawson up to 4th, Christian Hahn 5th, Jack Doohan 6th. Tepe Natori hasn't improved, so he's now down in 7th. Nikolai Kyrgyz, Sato and Ida Cohen, who we were saying we're impressed by, is now down in 10th place.
Well, he's still got about 2.5 minutes to make up that time in any case. If he gets himself a good toe in amongst the pack, it seems, because everyone seems to have closed up again now after them being a bit more spread out in many cases. It should be pretty interesting. One thing I can tell you is that provisional pole time that's just been set by Linus Lundqvist is about 300ths quicker than Billy Munger's fastest time in practice yesterday. So good effort from Linus Lundqvist to find the pace on board the double R machine. There he is, car number 26, the Swede, in the, I think you can almost call it the police car livery, because of course it has the fluorescent yellow and blue flashes on the side. And Yuki Tsunoda is running well, as there's a couple more cars running very slowly. One of them is it's not Yuki Tsunoda, it's number 30 car, which is Liam Lawson, and he was trailing behind their Rui Andrade, so those two trying to find a bit of a toe before they get going again. But Yuki Tsunoda running well, and I think he's lost some more time in the second sector because he was almost 2 tenths up. Now without the advantage of too much of a toe, he's now slipped to being at the moment still a personal best, but just over 4 tenths off provisional pole. As we've seen, Billy Munger's now slowing up to try and find himself a bit of a gap, and he's working together with the number 6 of Ida Cohen. So those two trying to work together in the last part of the session, and also backing off there. I think Tsunoda's realised he wasn't going to be on a fast lap, and has also backed off as well to try and set himself up for one more effort. So 1 minute 10 to go. Final flying laps underway. Ida Cohen leads the group. Billy Munger in there in second in that group. Then it's Lundqvist, one of the RP Motorsport cars, and these are the other 2 Carlin cars working together. This is Nikolai Kyrgyz giving Christian Hahn a slipstream down the pit straight towards the chicane.
And we got more warnings come through from Marino Sato, Tepe Natori, and I believe one of their teammates, that's Liam Lawson as well, which is for Chapter 4 of the rulebook. So I think that's the same offence that the other drivers have been told off for so far. So it's not a good day for driving standards.
Well, like I said, whatever happens, we'll let the clerk of the course decide exactly what they're going to do, if anything. As we see the 2 sort of Carlin teammates at play in the qualifying sessions. They start to switch positions, so even though on a hard flying lap, I think almost making a passing move into the Roger chicane might be the fastest way to get around the circuit. But even so, now it's Christian Hahn's turn to gain in front of Nikolai Kyrgyz, and there's still got this last flying lap to go. Then Lundqvist on provisional pole by nearly a quarter of a second from Nikolai Kyrgyz, who's now got up there in 3rd. 4th position now for Billy Munger, 5th for Lucas Dunner, and Natori's on a personal best on this lap so far.
Yeah, and Natori is right in Lucas Dunner's toe as well, so I think Natori's one to watch on this time round, because Billy Munger is one of the drivers who hasn't improved in the first sector. Natori has set the 2nd best first sector of the day, I believe. Liam Lawson and Cameron Dass were quicker, but both of them were kind of fighting through the first 2 corners, which probably would have cost them lap time.
So the 6 of Ida Cohen then makes his way into Parabolic, and Caelan Williams meanwhile slips past Looks like that was Carl Kirkwood he's got past there. As we see Linus Lundqvist riding over the curbs, I'm sure on the way to his current fastest lap of the session. Out of the rest of the chicane. And here is Liam Lawson in car number 30, and he is actually at the moment on course potentially to get provisional pole. He was up by 600, nearly 700 of a second in the first sector, a tenth in the second sector. Let's see what he can do at the end of this lap. Up to the timing line he comes. Is it provisional pole for the Australian? No, it's not. He just misses out by 39 one-thousandths of a second, but he does get himself onto the front row of the grid provisionally alongside Linus Lundqvist, and everyone apart from Crutton, Andrade and Caminiars have finished their laps. But it looks to me as if Lundqvist has done just about enough there, given the fact that Lawson just missed out, to pick up pole position for race 1.
Yeah, and I think Philippe Caminiars is actually doing an outlap because he was in the pits with about a minute to go, and he set a minute-long first sector of the lap, which is very slow again. I believe this is RR Racing's first pole in the championship, potentially the second pole for the HWA engine, which obviously took the first pole of the season in the hands of Lucas Danner. So a great result for the team, which is also fighting for the British F4 title today back in Britain.
Yes, indeed. So lots to play for the team. Here is confirmation of the provisional results from the qualifying session. Linus Lundqvist on pole for RR, with Liam Lawson just missing out for Team Motorpark. Then it's Carlin Motorsport 3-4, with Notori and Kiergaard 3rd and 4th fastest. Marino Sartor, the new champion, 5th. Cameron Dow 6th quickest. Caelan Williams 7th. Billy Munger down to 8th at the end of that session. Lucas Dunner 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the top 10. So a couple of slightly topsy-turvy, with a couple of drivers making some improvements in that qualifying session compared to previous results in qualifying. Billy Munger, who was fastest for quite a while in the last part of the session, dropping down towards the bottom of the top 10. Jack Doohan was 11th, Ida Cohen ending up 12th. He was as high as 3rd at one point. Christian Hahn 13th quickest, Nicholas Crutton 14th, and Rui Andrade 15th place. And our 3 newcomers to the championship this weekend, Carl Kirkwood, Lorenzo Ferrari, and Philippe Caminiars round out the 18 cars from that qualifying session. The spread in times was officially 4.1 seconds, but more impressively, the top 14 cars separated by less than a second, in fact. And just to confirm as well, top 6 covered by less than half a second, in fact, less than 4/10 of a second. So that just shows how tight, how competitive it is, not just here at Monza, but here in the championship, because in many cases. So, an interesting qualifying session just to wrap up, and in terms of what it's told us here so far, what would you expect possibly from the race, Elliot, in terms of any potential sort of surprises or possibly status quo from some of the drivers you expect to be at the front?
Nikolai Kiergaard, who's 4th on the grid. I think he took 2 third places at Silverstone, 2 second places at Barcelona. He told me at Barcelona he'll be getting 2 first places at Monza, so I'm holding him to that. And I think Cameron Dass as well, he's been very quick all weekend. He's only 6th on the grid here, but overtaking should be fairly easy around this track because of the power of the slipstream. So I think he's one to watch as well. And obviously our pole man, Linus Lundqvist.
So, Linus Lundqvist is the man that will start race 1 on pole position provisionally. Can he convert that into a race win, or will those behind him, stamping at his heels, be able to take it from him? Join us later on for race 1 here at Monza. But until then, from myself, Scott Woodward, Elliot Wood, and all of us here in Italy, join us for race 1, and we'll see you later on this afternoon. Bye for now.